Tokyo, the capital of Japan, is a city of neon lights, endless crowds, and ceaseless noise. Tourists see it as modern, efficient, and alive, but beneath the surface lies an ancient truth that most will never hear. Long before skyscrapers and subways, long before Shinjuku and Shibuya glowed with electricity, the city was carefully designed to contain something far older and far darker. The story whispered among certain priests and occult scholars is that Tokyo is not just a city, it is a cage, and what it contains is something that should never be allowed to escape. The legend begins centuries ago in the Edo period, when the city was known as Edo and ruled by the Tokugawa shogunate. At that time, spiritual knowledge was as important as military strength. Powerful monks and priests studied ley lines, the invisible currents of energy that flow through the earth. They knew that certain places acted as gateways, thin points, where the boundary between the living world and the realm of spirits was weak. Edo, they discovered, was one such place. The land itself pulsed with energy, both creative and destructive. If left unchecked, it could invite disaster, opening doors to entities that did not belong in this world. The shogun, upon hearing this, ordered the creation of a massive spiritual defense. Shrines and temples were placed at specific points across the city in a pattern, so precise that it formed a hidden seal, a great barrier to contain the restless forces beneath Edo. The arrangement became known as the Goshincho, the protective map of the capital. Each temple acted like a nail pinning down the edges of a vast net. Kunda-myogen guided the northeast, the direction of demons. High Shrine anchored the southwest. Zojoji and Kanneji temples balanced the spiritual flow. Together, they formed a barrier to protect Edo from collapse. For centuries, it worked. Fires raged, earthquakes struck, but the city always rebuilt. The hidden barrier held strong, yet no seal lasts forever. As Tokyo grew into a modern metropolis, many of the old temples were destroyed or moved. Highways cut through sacred paths, skyscrapers overshadowed shrines, and subway tunnels disrupted the flow of energy. Few noticed at first, but some whispered that the barrier was weakening. Strange things began to happen in places once considered spiritually stable. In certain subway stations late at night, commuters reported seeing figures in the tunnels, pale and silent, vanishing when approached. Office workers in Shinjuku claimed that mirrors in skyscraper bathrooms reflected not their own faces but those of strangers. Entire neighborhoods experienced waves of misfortune, accidents, fires, sudden deaths. To most, these were coincidences. To those who knew of the barrier, they were warnings. There is one story, often retold in hushed voices, of a university student named Ayoka. She was researching Tokyo's spiritual history for her thesis, curious about the connection between urban planning and religion. One night, while examining old maps in a library, she noticed something unsettling. When she overlaid the locations of ancient shrines onto a modern map, she realized many no longer lined up. Some were gone completely, others were relocated just slightly enough to break the symmetry. She showed her findings to her professor, but he dismissed it as superstition. Still, Ayoka could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. Drawn by curiosity, she began visiting the remaining shrines one by one. At first, everything seemed normal, but the deeper she went, the stranger things became. At Kunda-myogen, she heard chanting though no monks were present. At High Shrine, she swore. The guardian statues turned their heads when she passed. At a forgotten Inori shrine buried between office buildings, she found fox statues with fresh blood at their mouths though no animals were near. Piece by piece, she realized the barrier was not just weakening, it was unraveling, and something was trying to push through. One night, Ayoka took the last train to a station near Ueno. The area was quiet, the shops closed, the streets nearly empty. She carried her notes, determined to confirm her theory. As she passed Kanneji, once a major cornerstone of the barrier, she felt a vibration beneath her feet, like a deep growl rising from underground. The air turned cold, her breath visible despite the summer heat. Then she heard its voices, dozens of them, whispering in unison, rising from the cracks in the pavement. She could not understand the words, but the tone was hungry, pleading. She fled toward the station, but when she reached the stairs leading underground, she froze. Standing at the bottom was a figure dressed in the robes of an Edo period monk. His face was hidden, his body faintly transparent. Slowly, he raised his hand and pointed at her, and the whispers grew louder. Ayoka stumbled backward, dropping her notes, and when she looked again, the monk was gone. Only the echo of chanting remained. She returned home shaken, but she could not stop her research. The more she uncovered, the more convinced she became that Tokyo's prosperity was balanced on a knife's edge. If the barrier collapsed completely, something imprisoned beneath the city would be released. Some called it a yokai of unimaginable size. Others described it as a god cast out in ancient times, sealed away for eternity. A few whispered it was not of this world at all, but a being from beyond, drawn to Tokyo's energy like a moth to flame. Whatever it was, the priests of Edo had built the city itself, as a cage to contain it, and now the cage was breaking. Aoka tried to warn others, but no one listened. Even her closest friends laughed at her obsession. Then, one by one, they began to disappear. A classmate vanished walking home from Shibuya late at night. Another was found in his apartment, his eyes wide open, his body cold, though no cause of death could be found. Aoka knew these were not random tragedies, they were sacrifices, demanded by the things stirring beneath Tokyo. Her own dreams grew darker. She saw the city from above, the skyscrapers bending inward, like bars of a prison. She saw rivers turning black, flowing toward a vast eye, opening beneath the streets. She heard a voice calling her name, promising her power if she would only loosen the remaining knots of the seal. When she woke, she found strange marks on her skin, like claw scratches, though she had no memory of receiving them. The story ends abruptly. Aoka vanished during the summer festival season. Some say she was last seen near Sensoji, walking into the crowd before disappearing without a trace. Others claim she entered a closed-off subway tunnel and never returned. Her apartment was found empty, her notes scattered as if she had left in a hurry. The police treated it as a missing person case, but the villagers who still remember the old legends know better. They say Aoka was chosen by the barrier itself either to repair it or to be consumed by what lies beyond it. Today, Tokyo continues to shine, its trains rushing, its towers gleaming. Millions go about their lives unaware, but those who know the story glance uneasily at the skyline. They see the cracks forming, not in the concrete, but in the unseen web holding the city together. Sometimes, late at night, they hear the old chanting carried on the wind. Sometimes, they notice a shrine tucked between office blocks, its torii gate leaning, its rope frayed. And sometimes, in the reflection of a darkened train window, they see a face staring back that is not their own. The hidden barrier of Tokyo is weakening, and when it finally breaks, the city will learn what it has been protecting them from all these centuries.